Hello and welcome to another On the Bucket with Rob Allen. Today I'm joined by Scott Hamilton, SVP of Distech and Atrius, one of my favorite people in the industry. Consider him a friend, somebody that really has a good hold on industry, technology, and just an all-around good guy. Scott, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, that is a warm welcome, Rob. Rob Rogan, is that the new name? Rob Rogan?
Say what you want, man. It's I wouldn't mind looking like him or at least having his muscles.
Hey, I totally agree. I mean, I get to spend the next hour with one of my favorite people as well. So what a cool way to end a work week on a beautiful crisp day in the winter. So let's do this.
Yeah, it's great. This is a Friday. It was a low of 18, a high of 33 in Atlanta, and so I don't know if is that Boston weather too, or I'm sure you're lower
That's
than
the weather, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, things are changed. You're getting our weather. We're getting a little bit of your weather. Good times. Everything's unpredictable these days regarding the
it
weather.
really is. It's wild. So again, thanks for coming on. And the premise of the show is really just to humanize people in the industry, right? And oftentimes you're known for, well, that's the technical guy, and that's the supplier guy, and that's the whatever. And it's something that Eric did with Controltrends, is he had Controltrends people, and I got to learn about like where people were born and where they came from, and like it's like, wow, that person spent their teenage years in Europe, like who would have known, and different things. And so that's really what this is. We get personal, not too personal, obviously, but I just sort of kind of start with sort of in the beginning, right? So where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? That type thing.
Yeah. So I live in north of Boston now, and I actually grew up north of Boston in a blue collar town. It's called town Woburn, Massachusetts, and it's a pretty tough town actually, Rob. Can you tell? I mean, just by my look,
Yeah.
I'm pretty intimidating. But on that note, I did have an older brother, and he was considered the toughest kid in our high school. So even though I was a bit the opposite. I was sort of the nice guy, a little bit more focused than he was, but also I wasn't afraid to mix things up. But as I think about that piece, probably was more like I was relying on him to sort of fight those battles for me because I knew be right there and nobody's going to mess with me because of him. But yeah, blue collar town outside of Boston, and sort of the school of hard knocks a little bit, and sort of learn how to really work with people and kind of understand people as well through those early years, which is
Yeah.
cool.
It's so neat to kind of, there's so many different studies and different things that just your upbringing, sometimes if it doesn't break you, it builds you better, and different stuff. It's always so fascinating. And then Boston definitely has got the reputation for being a tough town, right? I always heard that South Boston is like the Southie, or what do they call it?
Yeah, well, Southie actually. So, a little fun fact for you. So, my dad grew up in Southie. He lived there till he was in ninth grade,
Okay.
and he moved up because he said that the girls started beating up the boys. Real fun fact about his growing up in Southie is the movie Good Will Hunting, which I'm sure you've seen that movie before. My dad grew up in the triple decker house that Robin Williams lived in the movie, and so they actually had to rent the house from my dad's sister, my aunt, during the filming. So there was this well-known guy that Robin Williams, and then you've got two unknowns, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, that just were again newcomers to the industry. So yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Little ties
There
to
we go.
South.
Right out
Yeah.
of the gate, we found something interesting and cool. This is seems to be a trend with this show. We get stuff right out of the gate that's neat. So, um, and isn't so the Wahlbergs are from Boston, Affleck's from Boston. I don't know about Damon, but
Damon's from Boston as well. Yeah.
did you watch any of the hockey last night? The
I
Four
did,
Nations.
man. I did, and it was disappointing in OT. Yeah, that was tough to see. But my North Canadians friends up at Distech HQ up in Montreal, pretty happy to see Canada pull out a win last night. So, we won one, they won one. Unfortunately, they won the bigger game, being the championship, but c'est la vie.
Yeah, I did text Matthew, and we went back and forth, and he had a text from me this morning when I woke up. So you can
Was
only
that
imagine
right?
what
He
that
was
looked like,
pretty
right?
happy, big smile on his face, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So, did you play hockey growing up? Was that something that you did, or?
I don't know. Is that a leading question? Because I feel like you knew that I played hockey growing up, or maybe you did. Did you?
I know your daughter. I know your daughters play, but I didn't know you played.
Yeah. So I played hockey growing up. I played through high school. Wasn't big enough of a guy to play in college, but really enjoyed my time playing. As a matter of fact, I ended up coaching junior varsity hockey for a team up in Yarmouth, Maine. I did a short stint up in Maine with General Electric. I'm right out of college, and coached JV hockey for a couple of years up there, which was pretty neat. And then to your point, you just brought up my daughters. Yeah, they both also played growing up. And what's really interesting up here in Boston, it's women's hockey is a big deal. And at every stage, whether you're 6 to 8 year old or 8 to 10, we call it this from mite, squirt, kiwi. At every age, town, which is 40,000 people, we fielded 2 full girls teams at every single stage, which is really interesting. It's really big sport up here, and our girls had really a lot of fun, and also I think just had a lot of fulfilling moments, playing hockey.
Yeah, it's neat bringing people up through sports. There's a lot to be gained from that, right? All the camaraderie, the dedication, all the things that come with it.
Yeah,
How was
teamwork too.
coaching?
What's that?
How was coaching? So JV, they would have been high school age, like
Yeah,
13?
JV. So it wasn't quite the varsity players. So it was even more freshman and sophomore team members on that squad. Good. It was fun. I was just a young buck myself, so I was 21 years old, and I thought you sort of knew everything about leading teams and coaching. And I was certainly I was more one of them than I was probably a leader at the time, right? But try to instill a bit of what the team should be about. Team culture. It's sort of like just starting those early development of sort of leadership, which was pretty neat. Kind of looking back on it.
Yeah, I bet you probably equal parts fulfilling, equal parts like chaotic. I can only imagine trying to coach a bunch of teenagers, right? But probably very serious. I bet you at that level probably took it very serious. It wasn't like
it's serious, but it's a little bit like herding cats. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, getting focused, more focus. Like was before cell phones. Like not everybody had a cell phone back then. So you had that piece going for you where nobody's like, in their phone, but just like
right.
talking locker room talk, right? Like zip it up and listen up. So
are you a sports guy now? Like watch sports, follow sports, or
I do, Rob. I mean, I do. I'd say it's probably, I'm more like highlight guy these days versus actually like sitting down and spending a ton of time, watching a full game. It's just, I think time is not, with just travel. And I was telling you earlier, I was traveling this week, and, actually next week's the first week not traveling since the beginning of the calendar year. So, with that said, is like, it's just a lot of times I'm different time zones. It doesn't always work out. So I'm more of an ESPN highlight dude, and, be up to date to talk the talk, but I don't always know exactly what happened during the course of the game. Might have missed a goal.
How life happens that way, right? I used to be able to tell you the backups for the Georgia Bulldogs and who we were recruiting and all that, and it's like now I'm lucky if I know 3 players, outside of the quarterback. It's I still have that rooting interest, still dial in for the big games. But so who's your team if you could pick one of are you all New England, Boston, all that, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I go with the home team, right? So for football, it'd be the Patriots, hockey, the Bruins, Celtics. Yeah, I mean, just the Red Sox. So you got to go home squad. It's tough to be here, not rooting for the home team. Atlanta, I think there's a few more transients there. You guys, it's gonna have people from all over down there. But Bostonians, we're tough and rugged. We don't leave usually, but nobody really comes here either.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that you got to be a hometown.
I would say it's harder to be a hometown boy in Atlanta, right? It feels like there's so much influence outside. And I used to go to Hawks games a lot 10 years ago. Yeah. And Hawks would play the Celtics. It was a Boston home game, 100%. Like it was a Boston home
all
game.
The fans.
Yeah.
Wearing green and white.
Like, where'd you guys come from? But anyway, that's crazy. So if you could pick one team to win the championship next season, regardless if it's possible or not, who would you be rooting for of your teams to win the
championship? What we thought was sport.
Like anything. So like
all of the 4 I just mentioned. Or would I like to see one again? Listen, I mean, I think it's going to be next to impossible, but I'd like to see the Patriots win again. I'm just sort of reclaim the top spot now. That's more of a dream, right? That I think everybody watching this podcast will say that's that's a dream. So I totally agree, by the way. But if I had a wish, that would probably be one. Reclaiming the top spot and winning the Super Bowl would be pretty miraculous.
Yeah, we've had a decent run. I mean, we had a long drought from '95 was the last time the Braves won something until they won 21, and the Georgia Bulldogs won a couple years in a row.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for the Falcons. I'd love to see that, but that's just a dream, as you just put it. It's crazy.
Time to have some Atlanta Super Bowl magic happen.
Yeah. Going back a little bit to like growing up, so you had an older brother. What were your parents like? Was your dad hard, tough guy? Was disciplined? Was mom like what were they?
Yeah, no. So my dad came from Southeast, so right, he had to be a tough guy, or else he was going to get beat up by all the women. So he had to be tough. And so he was a sheet metal worker. So I actually come from a family of sheet metal workers. My grandfather was a sheet metal worker. My uncle's a sheet metal worker. My dad is a sheet metal worker. My brother's a sheet metal worker. A lot of tough guys in my family. A lot of really smart, tough guys in my family, actually, too. My grandfather went to MIT as on the side and got a degree from MIT while being a sheet metal worker. So really just sort of like this really interesting mix of sort of intelligence, but also just putting a good hard day's work. And I think that also taught me something too, in terms of just like earning your right. Well, actually, I had just a conversation earlier this week of, I'd note earlier conversation earlier this week that we see a lot of people come in, after a year and a half, and they feel like they're ready for the next job, and one of the things like I always live by is sort of earning your right to move on and leaving your mark. And that is like somebody invested in you for a period of time. And I feel this way about myself too, by the way, and I hold other people to the same standard. Is the company invested in you for a certain amount of time. They've made that investment, and just as you're getting up to speed and sort of ramping on, you leave. And so you didn't leave it in a better place, and I do believe you sort of earn your way, right? You earn your mark, you leave your mark, and you earn your right to move on. And so I do believe putting a hard day's work. I also believe in your right to earning your way through. And so I think that definitely is one of the things that's up with me.
Yeah, I got that from childhood. I agree. I lead people just like you do, and it's my brother-in-law says he was an Eagle Scout, and I think their creed is leave it better than you found it. And I think that's kind of what you were saying a little bit, right? And it's just, I think too often we get caught up in tenure determines when you get to move to the next. I've been here a year. I've been here 3 years. Like I should be at a higher level than that person, whatever. And to your point, 100%. Like if we focused on earning it, making it better than we found it, we get around a lot of people. Clearly, that's what happens at Distech. There's a lot of great people. I'm so impressed by that. But let's get into that a little bit later. I want to go through this a little bit more linear. And so, high school, you're a bit of a hockey player. You got a family of sheet metal people. What was high school like? What was your first car? How about that?
My first car was a 1985 Chevy Monte Carlo. That thing was slick. I mean, it
Wow.
was super cool. It was the only thing I could afford at the time, but it got me from point A to point B. The problem was the red lights. I'd have to just cross my fingers, just tap on the gas so that it wouldn't stall.
Yeah.
No, it was great. It was slick. It was fast when it worked, and did the job. Got me from point A to point B.
What color was it? Was it all black with like the red pinstripe? Was it that one or?
No, that wasn't that one. It was a white one. So I mean, black. Now looking back, black sounds a lot cooler than white, but white at the time was actually pretty cool. But I did do the nice rims on it. Some pretty nice rims. Got those from the junkyard and really polished those babies up. This thing looked sweet. Yeah, looking back on it, I was very proud of that car. Right? I mean, I took the best care of it. Every little area I'd make sure I polish off. The thing was all polished inside as well. And it was 1985, and I think I got my first car probably in 90. I think it was like 9 years old, but it probably looked like it was 30 years old at the time.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows I'm much younger than you are, right? And so I'm just kidding. But my first car was a 1979 Datsun pickup truck.
Wow. I feel like I
And
gotta Google what that looks like.
so it was a shop truck. My stepdad was a truck driver and fixed tractor trailers and did stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
they had acreage and stuff. And so this truck, they would drive it around. Well, they kept losing the key. So they just did some hardwire or something. So it just had a push button start, didn't need a key. The
Wow.
transmission went bad in it. So they rebuilt it. When they put it back in, I think they let some kid do it or something, but he put it in sideways. So I could only get into fourth gear. So I couldn't use fifth gear with it.
Yeah.
Park and brake had worked. They didn't need that, right? So it was like, all right, you're 16. Here's your first car, and it was lifted, so it had 32-inch tires on it. I had a redneck stage there for like a couple of years, and
I can see that.
I took this thing to school first day that I had it, and was following a buddy because it was fun, drive your car to school for the first time. And so he ran off the side of the road because he had a four-wheel drive truck and ran through the mud just to kind of mess with it a little bit. And I did the same thing. Well, the boot that like covers the gear shift, like keeps
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you see
Yeah.
straight down to the ground. Like I didn't have one. And so I
Yeah.
ran through this mud puddle and it shoots it up and it's all over the inside of the truck, all over me. That was my first drive into the.
Wow. How long did it last you?
Well, it met its match when I was leaving some parking lot on Cobb Parkway in Atlanta, and it was raining, and I spun it around and on accident, and the wheels went up underneath it, and that's when it met its demise. And so then I didn't have anything for a little while again, and then I can't remember what I got something else next, but yeah, it was a fun little truck while I had it.
It's a great question because I think it's interesting what people's first cars are. I mean, even everybody has a story about their first. Well, not everybody, but most people have a story about their first car.
Yeah, but
You
and then
look
it
back
too.
at pop too. I
But
mean,
you're just like, what's your second one? And I'm like, I got to think about what my second one was, but you know what your
right.
first one was, right?
That's right. That's right.
Very cool. So did Monte Carlo go to college? Did it
The
make it
Monte
or?
Carlo did get me to college. Yeah, I mean, the Monte Carlo got me through almost through college, and then I got my first taste of a company car my third year in college. So we did a co-op intern, like a paid internship. So I went to Northeastern University in Boston, and they've got this amazing co-op program where you have to do a year and a half of actual paid internship at different companies. So for me, it was the Boston Globe was my first one, and then I did GE, so General Electric Company. But when I was at GE, they gave me a company car
Wow.
as a co-op student, so that was pretty interesting. Yeah, so then the Monte Carlo was gone. Well, I had it, but I didn't use it, and I used the company car, which was, man, I just felt like brand new, Mercury Sable. I was like the coolest guy in town, driving around the city. So, but it was a new car that I didn't have to worry about and cross my fingers at the stoplights.
Yeah, didn't have to flutter it to keep it going. Man, I can't imagine the insurance that they had to pay to put in people less than 25 years old into cars. Clearly, it works though. That was GE, right? There,
Yeah,
that
that
was who
was
it was.
GE. Yeah. Yeah, it was with GE Lighting actually, so on the lighting side of the business. And strange to be back at Acuity, been here 7 years, but the biggest lighting manufacturer in North America, how that came around, even though I'm not representing lighting today, that's not my responsibility, but back at a big lighting company.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you um, my grandfather worked for Lithonia Lighting way back in the day that Acuity ended up, acquiring.
That's a big
Yeah,
brand of Acuity. That's right.
yeah. So I always thought that was kind of neat that tie in how it all kind of works. Northeastern was that? Am I thinking like were they purple and white? Is that Northeastern?
No, that's well, I don't know which school that is. There's probably a bunch of schools, but it's red, black, and white. So
Okay,
it's a private university in the city.
okay.
Way more difficult to get in today than it was when I got in. So I wouldn't want to apply today. I think it's a 7% acceptance rate. It might have been
Wow.
70 at the time when I went, but no, today, kidding aside, today it is 7%. It's really challenging to get in. It's a really, really good school. So
Yeah, it's neat. And you enjoyed your time there, right?
in my time there, and I think probably the biggest thing I enjoyed, I mean, truly the biggest reason I would recommend going is the experience that you get back. I mean, you basically have a year and a half of really solid businesses and companies and experiences behind you after graduating. And so it kind of
Yeah.
sets you up for your future.
So did you, after college, did you work for GE or did you?
Yeah, so they hired me my senior year. So they hired me my senior year at Northeastern, and I was going to school Monday, Tuesday, and I was actually had my accounts. So GE Lighting, my accounts at the time were in New York City, and so I was a 20-year-old guy at that point in time, going down to New York from Boston, and I was calling an account sort of more Thursday, Friday. Answering calls in the middle of class, stepping out of the middle of class, and sort of doing a real job. That was the
Wow.
neat thing about it. They offered me a job while I was in school, and so it was also strange where I wasn't 21, and then you're in New York City with some customers that you want to take out for dinner, and you're just sort of like, hope you don't get carded, and you're at the table, and everybody's ordering wine, and you're like, I'll have a glass of wine too, but just kind of again, fingers crossed that you can make it
Yeah.
work.
That reminds me that we've got some people at Stromquist that we've got one that worked here. I think he started working here in 1965, but we had a few that were, remember making calls in the 60s, 70s, and they would have two martini lunches. They called them. So you'd go out and you'd have two martinis. You would talk shop, then you go back and do engineering drawings and stuff like that.
Times have
Yeah,
changed.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. It's just like it's just kind of neat with the everything ringing now.
Blowing up Rob Rogan.
Yeah, right. So working at GE, are you still living in Boston or are you and just commuting to New York?
Yeah, I was, at the time. And so that was sort of during schooling, right? And I graduated schooling, and then they offered from New York City, they offered me the right market of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. So
Wow.
I moved to Portland, Maine. So so moved up to Maine, and was in that territory for about 2.5 years, and then moved down to Boston to take over some accounts back down in Boston.
Got it.
Somebody left, an account opening had been rose up, and took that as a direct seller down in Boston, at Boston market.
Nice. So now you're probably mid 20s. Had you met Nicole yet? Is she come into the picture yet, or is that further down the road?
He came in the picture, yeah. So, Nicole as I know Christy, so it's a great connection. So Nicole and I met in Portland, Maine, and so we got an interesting story, I think, of how we met. Maybe a little unconventional. So we'll talk about that another time, maybe.
All right. I'll put it in the show notes, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that interesting. So yeah, we moved. So I moved up to Portland, Maine with GE. She also moved up to Portland, Maine. We didn't know each other. She moved up with a friend, and was looking for a place to live. And I had a 2-bedroom apartment. She applied to be my roommate, and next thing you know, she moves in as my roommate, and the rest is the history. So we did meet there, and she moved down to Boston with me. And she'd only moved down if we got engaged. So we got engaged, made the commitment, and the rest really is history.
Wow, that's great. That's very similar to me and Christy. I was living in Central Florida area. She was still in Atlanta, and she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna need to get married." And I said, "Awesome, I got the better job. Come down." She's like, "No, I'm not coming down. You're gonna come back out." And so yeah, same things. But in both cases, everything's working great. So that's fun.
Everything's working great, man. How many years for you? How many years marriage?
You're not supposed to ask that. I'm supposed to know that. It's like I
Because
think
what gives me time to think, so you don't have to ask me. So I know my number. I just did quick math.
I think we're 16 years of marriage, but we started dating in high school. I was 17, she was 18.
Yeah.
1 year we broke up, and 6 years apart when I lived in Florida, just long distance. 6 years in Florida when she was still living in Atlanta. So yeah, isn't that wild?
12. Yeah. It's a good match. You guys make a good pair.
So your daughters play hockey, which is you were just saying is like a growing sport in Boston. So what's going on with them? What age are they? Where are they at in life?
I can't believe it, man. Like it's crazy. They're like a freshman. Kaylee, the oldest, you know Kaylee, and you know
Yeah,
Maddie.
yeah.
Kaylee's a freshman in college, so she's at Fairfield University studying nursing freshman year. And then we have Maddie, who's going to be graduating this coming May. and she's going to be going to George Washington University in DC, studying fine arts and entrepreneurship. And so it is so strange to be at this moment in time where Nicole and I are going to be empty nesters, and we're like looking at the next chapter, staring us right in the face. And it's like, wow, what's next? And so I know my kids, well, their kids are adults, but they're still my kids. Really appreciate you and Christy quite a bit too. So I get to know you two both over the years, and they think so highly of you both. So thanks for just being good people to them as well.
It's easy. It's I knew I liked you. I knew that a lot of respect and stuff. Then I meet your family, and it's like that's the extension of you, right? And if you guys function as a unit, like it's just it's really fun to see. You know, one of my favorite takeaways from Kaylee and Maddie, right, is they love each other. They seem to get along. They have each other's back and stuff, but they seem to be a little bit of opposites as well too, like into different things and into different stuff, but they're both so respectful, so courteous, like just thinking about the next step, like just kind of want to have a good time, want to do the right thing. Like they're just going to be great. They continue to be great people. I'm sure going to have great, loving, rewarding careers and lives and all that. And obviously, you and Nicole are the ones that have created that structure and that balance for them. It's neat, man. It's really fun to see.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. I think, and not that anybody here is probably looking for advice to raise kids, but I mean, I think part of it is like, we made a decision a long time ago that, Nicole was going to be sort of like at home. I was going to work, and that worked for us, by the way. It doesn't work for everybody, but works for us. I think the more important takeaway is that we were kind of like a little bit good cop, bad cop with the kids growing up. And so, Nicole was always like listening without judgment, which is sort of like opposite at work for me, because I was the strict one at home. I was the one that was like, okay, like here are the rules and you have to follow the rules. Nicole was always the one that had an open ear. Right? And the kids would always confide with her. As I've learned also from her is that, it's not always about sort of being the rules, right? It's always not always about, being strict. It's also about listening. Like it is listening to your kids and not only your team members too, right? In the same way that I was really better at work than I was at home at listening. And so as I've evolved, I've learned to just listen, kind of listen in, and not be so judgmental, and just kind of let them feel like they're, whatever they're going to tell you, the good, the bad, and the ugly is that you're there for them. You're going to guide them, but you also not there to be the best friend, but they respect you and that they will do the right thing at the end of the day because they know that they're listened to. They know that, again, they're heard, and, they're without judgment. So I think that's like a pretty key takeaway. It took me a while to figure that one out, Rob. So for anybody else, if I can pass that along.
You definitely figured it out, man. It's feels like all that's working. Two great kids, a wonderful wife, and wonderful life. Really cool. All right, so now we're at GE. When do you get into to our industry? When do you get into controls industry?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a windy road. So I've been in controls now for 13 years, but it's kind of going through history. My first 5 were with GE. So on the lighting side, that was really more of a individual contributor direct selling role. All of a sudden, Siemens came. Actually, really good mentor of mine at GE had left and went over to Siemens, and brought me into a business development position. And so I was calling on at that point in time for power distribution business. It was panel boards, switchboards, low voltage switchgear, like some pretty heavy duty stuff. And so got into that field. I did that for about 11 years. So I was in switchgear for 11 years, just different roles of, business development. It was more of a channel manager. I managed an agency network throughout the US for a little bit. And then I became the Northeast construction sales manager for the power distribution business back in 2000. And so that got me moved up to Boston from Atlanta. Didn't talk about the Atlanta stint, but that was about 3 years at Siemens. So I'm back in Boston. I'm managing the sales team in the Northeast. I did that for 7 years, 2006 to 2000 and almost 13. And so Had the same sort of similar role during that whole time. And then Siemens Building Technologies was looking for somebody to run their channel. And so I took over the channel role for indirect sales in the US for Siemens in 2013. And I stayed there through 18 and then moved over to Distech Controls in 2018. So I've been in this part of the world for 12, 13 years now. And it's been just an amazing ride, just wild and amazing.
Yeah, it's I didn't know you existed probably in maybe 8 to 10 years ago, right? And had probably heard your name for 3 or 4 years before I ever actually met you. You've been one of the few people that I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say anything negative about you. It's always seems like someone, oh yeah, but this guy something, right? So it's like, but I've wondered like, what would you say your true passion is as it relates to like the industry? So is it like true, like if you could just do whatever, would you be just a sales guy? Do you love leading people? Are you like a secret technical guy? Like what's your passion as
Yeah, I mean,
far
I
as
would say probably not the secret technical guy. You know, I do think, I think my passion, I think in sales, you could be passionate about a few things. One is you can be passionate about customers, which all salespeople should be, by the way. You could be passionate about the product, which all salespeople should be, by the way. And you can be passionate about like your team and your culture and your business, which again, you should be, right? And so all those things. And so I think if I think about why I really love, and I'll speak about why I love what I'm doing, where I'm doing it right now is because I think that we're different. Like I think we're a different company. I think we're different in terms of technology. I think we're different in terms of team and culture. I think we're also even different just the way we operate day to day. And
yeah,
so like I personally enjoy the leadership part of it because I do like building teams. I do like building strong culture. I do like helping customers achieve things that they couldn't achieve before through our solutions or just through partnership. And, I feel like I'm able to affect that change with the role that I have to make sure that we operate the right way and develop trust internally and trust externally, right? I think that's the most valuable currency that we can offer to our people and to our customers.
yeah. It's so neat hearing you say it because I've certainly felt it, right? The time that I've known you, all those things you just mentioned, I organically felt it or observed with you and your team. And so coaching, culture, that's a passion. That's what gets you up in the morning. But clearly with that, there's gotta be something a little bit more. You're a pretty strategic guy, right? Do you look at like market analysis and various different things and how do you sort of kind of attack your attack your role? Give us a little bit of a secret sauce. Not too much, right? You can't give the
Yeah,
family recipe away.
no, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy to share a little bit, right? And I think the way that we operate or I try to operate is think about time, right? We put an emphasis, or I try to put an emphasis on time. And that means one is that it's our only constraint that we have, right? Is time. We can make more or get more of almost anything and everything, but we can't make more time. And so I think once we realize that and put an emphasis on time and focus on the things that matter, that helps us be more productive than we are today. So if we think about um, just our sales team, for example, making sure that what every moment is accounted for in terms of making sure that it's a productive moment and make sure that we focus on the things that matter can separate us from, we can all get distracted by the shiny object or distracted by somebody asking us to do something that's not going to help and support the ultimate goal and mission and vision. And so if we put time at the center, that really does help us, sort of have a true north compass of, what it is that we need to do. I'd also say that, that my role is interesting in the sense that I really enjoy sort of the day to day, sort of like getting my hands dirty with the team. But I've slowly over time have come to realize that that's not my role anymore. My role is to remove barriers of success for my team members, and that's probably my number one job. And
Wow.
then also just to make sure they've got clarity and alignment.
Wow. What a way to succinctly nail something so complicated, right? And my job how I heard it, my job is to remove barriers and obstacles from my team, ensure that they understand the culture and the alignment, and the strategy that we want to do, right? And so that second part's a reinforcement thing. The first thing at StrongQuest, I try to create a culture of feedback, right? I can't possibly know what the people in the warehouse are experiencing, negative or positive, throughout the day, right? I'm not down there. Same thing for the accountants. A little bit I know about the salespeople, inside sales a little bit, but we have a culture of feedback. They have to tell us what's going on, right? And it took a long time to kind of create that safe space where we would get that back.
Safe space is important.
So how do you guys, how are you made aware of what obstacles that you need to remove? How do you do that?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think that we talk about most of the leaders here. I'd say most all of them have an open door policy, right? And I think that creates that level. And I think a lot of companies would say that, but truly it is an open door policy. I mean, you can walk into Martin Villeneuve's desk. I can call Peter Hahn, like there's people that you just can call and you don't feel like you've got to hold back. And I try to operate the same way, whereas like, yeah, I want to hear, like, I'm invested in the conversation. I want to understand. And, it's the, 2 ears, one mouth, scenario, which is, let's listen more than we talk, right? Let's listen to understand and let's listen to clarify so there's alignment through the organization. Because when we have misaligned teams, let's understand why. It's like, why aren't we operating the same way? Why are we doing things differently? Why sort of we going outside of what we would normally expect and aren't receiving the results and getting the results that we would hope for? And so that alignment piece is, really important to make sure, again, it's clarity and alignment together. Yeah.
Was a lot of that culture, the open door policies, was that there when you got there, and did you build a lot of that once you got there?
No, I mean, I would say it existed. I mean, I think, every company has a different corporate culture, right? And I think from GE was very different from Siemens, which is different from Distech. And I think I learned a bit at each one, right? And I think what I really appreciate about the Distech and the Acuity culture overall is that, it's very warm, it's welcoming. It's like they want the best people they want to basically be the best place for the best people to come to do their best work. Right. And that's meaning that means that we have to attract the right talent, but also means we need to keep the right talent. And so there's a lot of deliberate focus. And I think that feedback piece that you're doing with your team is super important. We do have formal ways of getting feedback. We do a formal survey every year, and we act on that survey, those results. We provide quarterly updates to the teams so that they're aware that, we're aware and we're making progress and we're taking action, right? So that's really important. And I also think like as valuable or even more invaluable is the informal feedback. It's those one-on-one conversations that you can have with somebody that really make a difference when they feel heard. And, you take their, the confidence and the information that they give you, and you take action as on their individual, information.
Yeah, I was going to say that's taking action to me. Is hearing it is one thing. Like, yeah, you're heard, right? We got to learn that too. A lot of times we forget to make sure that someone was heard, right? We just like to tell us, and we're like, cool, got it. So that's kind of the first step. And then the second part is truly acting on it. And it shows that it's where sometimes I bet you it's hard to provide feedback for people. Like, how's this going to be received? Sometimes, do I even know what I'm talking about? Like, or is this out of place to bring up, and different things? But when you start to build that trust with your leader, and that you can address these things in a safe place, and they're going to address them in a way that works for the whole team, right? All of a sudden, it's wild. I mean, we tried to create this feedback culture, and I think for a year we had a mechanism to collect the feedback, and it was, we get one thing every week or something, and we went and just started doing it different, ensuring we were acting on it, being transparent with what we were doing. We had to end up, we've got 3 people that are putting eyes on it daily with the different ideas and different things that people are coming back with. It's such a great thing.
I think you said the word too, and I said it earlier as well. I mean, I think trust fosters this environment where people feel it is safe And they know when you give feedback that it's coming from a good place, not a place to hurt somebody, right? Once you develop that trust, feedback is also easier to receive because, it's like, hey, one hand you get feedback directly from your manager, and like, oh, there's not a lot of trust there. And, are they looking to get rid of me? Then all of a sudden you're not sure if it's good, if it's well-intentioned feedback, or it's like, man, and then you start sweating it. But when you really know trust is there because you've built a solid foundation of a
Mhm.
relationship with a person, when they give you feedback, it's from a good place to build you up, to make you stronger, to develop you as an individual. And I think that foundation of trust is so underrated between, a manager and their associate, that it's something that I think that deserves further emphasis from leadership.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not that hard to do. You just have to be intentional about it, but you also have to have a desire or a care, right? You gotta want to be that way. And then I think too often a lot of leaders don't want to be that way, right? They're driven by something else, but it's clearly an organic thing. At Distech and Atrius, it's you can see it all the time. What else? What else gets you going? What else is the industry
Yeah.
trends thing for you now, or
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that gets me going, certainly, I mean, I can't underscore technology more. I mean, I don't want to do a disservice. Technology is definitely drives me and the team as well. And I think we've got a really passionate sales team. I think we do a pretty good job of staying ahead of the innovation curve overall. And that's, I'm sure I'm biased in my thinking, but, we just want a nice board at AHR, an IvyCon plug, for the Resense move for the Eclipse facilities, controller. It is really fun being part of a open, disruptive, non-proprietary technology that is winning in the market. That is really fun. And I think, we certainly hear that from our team and from our partners as well. Uh, and so, that definitely, keeps me going. It's a great place to be. And then, we also talked about culture. We also talked about time and sort of how we operate, just focusing on the things that matter. Again, we spend, we can be distracted very, very easily. And I think when we're focused on the things that matter, it also can fuel you and give you energy, right? When you know that you're making a difference in whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your charter or mission is.
yeah? Shift a little bit. I'm going to catch you off on the spot here, but I want to talk about young people entering our industry, the labor shortage, right? That's kind of where this question is going to come from to get your brain going a little bit. But I serve on the advisory council for Distech. Awesome experience. I come away with more ideas and just a positive thing all around. But one of the things that we talk about, it's mostly made up of system integrators that are on the advisory council. We're one of the unique ones being a distributor. One of the things that are constantly brought up, I feel like every single meeting, is the lack of labor, lack of training, and it feels like us that live in this industry, it's like this is a great industry, right? This is a lot of people would love to be a part of it. What advice would you give a rising senior in high school, a rising senior in college? You pick, mixture of both. What advice would you give someone, or what's your sales pitch for getting them to come into our industry?
It's a really good question. I don't know if we've perfected it, to be honest with you, but I'll probably just share kind of my thoughts with you. One is I think that we could be perceived as, we're pushing a bunch of boxes out the door, right? And in our case, we've got blue boxes. So we say, pushing blue boxes out. The reality is, yeah, there's hardware that's highly visible, right? And that's what goes out the door. But what's embedded in that hardware is a whole bunch of software that solves a bunch of problems, whether it is the labor skills, labor shortage for our system integrators. As important to solve specific problems for buildings, right? We help solve operational efficiency issues. We help solve energy efficiency issue. And so we're seeing a lot of younger people today come out of college, caring a little bit more about the environment than maybe what I, graduated college, 25, 30 years ago. So everybody's hot button is a little bit unique and different, but what we're seeing is a lot more energy around artificial intelligence. We certainly saw that walking around AHR, and AI certainly is not only buzzing at AHR, but it's buzzing in everybody's every K through 12 school. where, kids are now getting in trouble for using ChatGPT to, write their homework. So I think the worlds are starting to blend a little bit with software development, coding, which you could only learn in college is now being taught in, seventh grade. And
Yeah.
so it's just changed so dramatically that I think we have to flip the script in terms of the way that we present ourselves to sort of younger people. It is a pretty sexy industry, actually, when you really think about what it is that we do. It doesn't always feel that way. It doesn't always look that way from the outside. But, we're solving some major problems where, 40% of the energy is made up of the things that we do in a building, a consumption of the building. And, if we can reduce that and we can make this, we can help people save energy, right? Just simply energy reduction, have a bunch of companies be a lot more profitable than they are today. Yeah, I think we should have to relate to people, whether it's sustainability and energy focus, building optimization focus, et cetera. The software side of things, we need to focus on as well.
Yeah, and all that, I think my biggest takeaway that I heard, and I agree with this, if this is what I took away accurately, everything exists in our industry that we would quote unquote say is sexy, right? And I think that we can kind of cover a wide gambit of roles. We have technical people that get their hands dirty. We have salespeople, we have marketing people, etc. But it exists. It's there. We have an opportunity to improve how we market our industry. It's kind of what I think I took away is like, it's not that we have to go create all this stuff to go match up. We just have to more effectively tell people what it is that we do. This subject, whenever I think about it, it always makes me think about Lauren Scott, who runs marketing for, I guess, Acuity now, or at least the ISG side of it, right?
Yeah, for Distech Atrius, yeah.
So but Lauren, if you ask Lauren what she does, I've never done it because I know, but I bet you she'd say, I do something with sustainability. I do something with that, and I dabble in marketing with it, right? I think she feels like she works for a sustainability company, right? And then she talks about how as she was a kid, like she was doing like everything relating to the earth and protecting it and all that kind of stuff, right? And that she's been able to find a career with it. That's her passion.
Yeah.
And I just think it's neat, that like, yeah, you can find that. You can do it.
You can find it here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. She's gonna. That's probably maybe it's a future interview for Rob Rogan is having Lauren Scott on here.
Scott, I wanted to start with somebody I was kind of comfortable with that was going to be easy.
Yeah.
I might need to get a few of these under my belt before
she's a professional podcaster herself. I don't know if you know that. She's doing these podcasts too, so she's going to be on point. Me, I'm a rookie at these things, so I'm learning.
I knew you would crush it, and I knew you'd make me comfortable. I think sometimes people think these things are like the guest is uncomfortable. It's like the host has got to make sure that everything is going good as well too. Man, so hey, I think this has been great. I think that the mission's been served. Everyone gets to know the tip of the iceberg of Hamilton. I often hear you called Hamilton more than Scott. I think there's a lot of Scotts.
A lot of Scott.
But man, thank you so much. I think that what you're doing is great. I think that what you've accomplished at Distech is really fun to see. I know it's a team effort, right? But you've empowered so many people that work for you, with you, that you work for, to just build a really great company, maybe part of a country too. I don't know. Be prepared after this. Celebrity can kind of come at you fast. Right? This typically what happens is, I hope the paparazzi don't get to you too quick. Have a little bit of time to prepare.
Well, Rob, a couple of things. One is I do want to give a shout out to my team. So the global team of Distech and Atrius. So shout out to that team. They do an amazing job each and every day. And I want to thank you, truly thank you. I mean, you are making a difference. First off, you make a difference as a person. So keep doing what you do. Keep being you, number one. Number two is thanks for being just an awesome partner, an awesome customer of ours as well. And also appreciate the friendship too. So thank you, Robbie. Appreciate everything you're doing for
Robbie. Here we go. That's going to go viral, I'm sure. Thanks for the nice words, man. Right back at you. And it's fun. Let's do this at each other's retirements 25 years from now. Tell stories about each other. And that'll be cool. All right, man.
Thanks for the time, man. All right. Take care.
Take care.